Hello, and welcome to the MentorDino podcast. I'm your host, Katelyn Rossier. I am an architect and founder of MentorDino. Join me each week as I speak with amazing professionals in and around the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, as we are all part of a larger interconnected community. We discuss everything from career stories, lessons learned, and advice for others finding their own unique career path. Thank you to all of our current subscribers, and if you're new, welcome to the conversation. And if you like this episode, please do me a favor by hitting subscribe, like, or share it with a friend. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support them on their own unique career journey. On this episode of the MentorDino podcast, I want to focus on lessons for architects. One of the amazing things with this podcast and talking to professionals in and around the AEC industry is really highlighting the fact that we can learn from each other, get outside of our disciplines, get outside of our area of expertise to learn from others on how something gets pulled together, how something gets bid, how an owner actually lives in that environment later. And so for this episode, I wanted to bring together 4 guests that I've had on the show from different aspects of a construction project that we hit along the way, sometimes for just short stints of time, sometimes all throughout the project, from design to construction and to final closeout. So this one, I'm going to start out with the owner's side and bringing back episode number 14 with Stephen Albert. He is an architect, and he has switched over to the owner's side and works for a hospital here in Pittsburgh. And so we talk about taking that expertise as a design professional and putting it onto the owner's side, and how he can leverage his knowledge to make sure he's asking the right questions. But it is really up to the design teams to let him know what questions they need answered so he can find the right people to get you the answers while you're in the design phase process. So let's jump over to Stephen's episode and hear a little bit more about his advice to design teams as well as architects from the owner's perspective. Based on you working now with a lot of different firms and engineers in the city, do you have any advice or lessons learned you've had along the way for AEC firms for working with you and UPMC?
Keep asking questions, right? That's the most important thing, right? Like there's sort of like, there's the principles of design, right? There's the principles of engineering, like there's what we think should work. But really testing it out and almost, mock-ups are important depending on what the project is, but really making sure that we understand what we're doing is important. The other thing that is really important, I think, for AEC firms, and I think firms have gotten it because they see the power in it as well. I'm one project manager, and you could ask me all of your questions. I have to then take those questions and ask all these other people. I would rather facilitate the meeting and get you an opportunity with the people that you need to talk to directly, whether they're from facilities or stakeholders or whoever, and try to make sure that we get those answers like directly. But in order to do that, let's just say it's facilities, they need to be prepared. So I believe very strongly in a good page turn meeting at the right times during a project, where we can give the facilities team who knows the mechanical, plumbing, and electrical systems in the hospital better than anybody, who we can show them what we're planning to do to those systems, get them to review it and respond to it. They can review that information a whole lot better than I can, but you also have learned over the years, it's not as effective to sit them down, and whether you put the drawings up on the screen on the wall or whether you actually lay paper out on the table, if they're seeing it for the first time, you're not going to get anything good out of them. They need to have the time, and they also need to be encouraged and supported to get those documents ahead of time and really dig into them. So what I typically do for a page turn experience is I ask the architect and engineer to get those drawings to me at least a week ahead of time. and we get those over to facilities. And then I talk to facilities and I say, look, we're having a meeting a week from now. I want you to come to that meeting with a list of questions. And I can tell you the meetings that they show up with where they have questions, whatever those questions are way more productive than if we just lay the drawings out and said, okay, here's what we're going to do.
If the engineers have questions for your facilities engineers,
No, I want
or the
facilities
other
to ask
way.
questions of the. I want facilities to ask questions of the engineer. I want them to challenge the designer.
Got
right?
it. Yep.
And it's really interesting to see how those conversations will evolve, because sometimes the facilities team has more information and knows how the systems actually run and work and what they have to do to tweak it to get it, whatever, that is not in those existing set of documents that the engineer used to build off of. And so it takes all of those things together to create a cohesive design.
Yeah.
And honestly, we work with commissioning agents and they're great, right? It's another good design check particularly for MEP design review, but it also takes a knowledgeable owner, and I include facilities in that knowledgeable owner, bubble, to really get after the design and make sure that it will work. And certainly within a hospital, like there's certain degrees of like modern systems, and there's certain degrees of legacy systems that have been around for a while, right? Like we still have a lot of pneumatically controlled HVAC stuff. You have to tie into that differently than you do the newer stuff, right? So that's where working with facilities is really important.
Do you find the facility, like for MEP, generally the schematic design is all narratives? Do you find facilities is going through narratives as well as the drawing side?
Depending on the person, but yes. What's really important, becoming ever more important on the narrative side for MEP systems, particularly mechanical, is the control systems narratives and the sequences, and what if the temperature drops, this, that, whatever, all that kind of thing is really important to kind of work through those scenarios. But yeah, I mean, I really try to foster and facilitate an environment where my architects and engineers will work with whoever I have on the hospital side that is part of the project and treat them as the resource, treat them as if they have the answer to the problem, right?
Yeah.
And that it can kind of go both ways. It's a little cliche for me to say this, but I believe very strongly that everyone is a designer, right? And that doesn't mean that everyone is an architect, but what that means is that everyone does something throughout their day or throughout their life to change or manipulate the physical environment around them, or use the physical environment to accomplish their job or their task. And in doing so, they're a designer because they had to figure out how to set it up or how to change something. And they don't even realize that they're doing it. So in that sense, I want the design professionals to work with them and figure out what it is that they do that makes things, work for them. Also want them, because healthcare people are, they have a job to do and they're going to do it, and they're going to go straight through and do it, even if they have to jump over a wall to get there. So they're great at workarounds, right? And they don't even know that they're doing workarounds. So we do a lot of work in, especially in project planning, to challenge like their workflows and try to come up with things that are lean or more efficient or, better flow. And when you ask, a lot of times the answer, when you show a stakeholder group something new that looks a little out of sequence to them, what do you think about this? And they say, well, I don't know. We don't do it that way. Well, could you do it that way? Well, maybe. Why not? We've never done that before, right? Like this is the way we've always done it. So I really try to put architects, particularly architects, in the position to be successful at trying to get stakeholder groups to be open to a new way of doing something, because I don't want to see us just perpetuate the way we've been doing something if that's the way we've been doing it. So
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. But everybody's fearful of change too. So it's like you're almost being a mini change management facilitator as well, because you
Right.
have to educate. And that's where sometimes mock-ups or those
Yes.
fiscal workarounds can be
Yep.
so helpful that it's like, see, you don't have to hit this button 3 times. Like you can just tap once if we do this new thing, or
Right.
reducing
Right.
steps is always a big one in healthcare.
Well, and mock-ups and stakeholder involvement in projects as you go through them helps orient people to the space when they finally are in it, when it's built. And when it's really incredible when you see that light bulb in somebody go off and they walk in the completed space, and yeah, it's beautiful, but this looks like what we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, because you have a piece of it, right? This is what you told
Exactly.
us you wanted, and we did it.
And it came to life. You saw it in
Right.
plan 3D, and now it's reality. Switching gears a little bit, has there been any organizations that have left the biggest impact on your career?
My university experience, my University of Cincinnati experience, was outstanding. I think I got lucky when I feel like I picked the right school for me personally, because I was very fortunate. I had the opportunity to go to, almost any architecture school that I applied to. And I picked Cincinnati because I felt like it was the best fit, right? And it was. So that I would say that. But as far as organizations, I don't know.
Welcome back. And now I want to take a step back and look at it from a contractor's lens, but not just learning from contractors, but learning from estimators. I've always been taught that when you put a project out to bid, the closer all the bids come together, the better the drawing set is. That doesn't mean that it's perfect, and it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be changes, that there aren't gaps, but at least you communicated clearly on what your design intent is based on the drawings and specifications that you put together. The further away that different bids are, that means there could be some confusion in your drawing set. So, this one, I'm bringing back episode number 37 with Jesse Robinson Evans. He is a construction estimator at Rycon Construction, and we talk about his experiences as being a PE and then shifting over to the estimating side, and really that it takes a team effort to put a building together. And especially with so many projects where we bring the contractor on early to make sure that those estimates are clear and that we can go to them for advice on best practices and what are the best bang for our buck sometimes if budget is a worry, or when COVID hit and things were delayed and you had to pivot on some of your design decisions. So I hope you guys enjoy this little clip learning from the estimator's perspective with Jesse. The work architects and contractors are always joked upon of being combative, and I have had a combative experience and can see that hell, but I've also seen the great ease when the contractor and the architect can work well together.
Yeah, I want to preface that, my experience may be colored by the client, my employer at the time, and maybe some of my own inexperience. A lot of things in the construction industry is just sink or swim, and at that point I was sinking and not swimming, and it was a combination of the client was not well versed in construction. She was a small time landlord improving her parcel. She didn't get it. We had framed the whole floor. She walked in and was like, can you make this room a little bit bigger? It seems small. And it's like, you want me to demolish everything I just did, reframe it? The schedule impact and the change order I'm going to send you is going to knock your socks off. Like, no, I can't make the room bigger. I did what's on the plans. That's what's in my contract. Again, so there was some adversarial aspects there, just, fighting over money, fighting over changes. I had to fight the city one inspector says, oh, put ACT here and that will give you access to your air handler. And then a different inspector down the road says, oh, that's not good. You got to rip it all out. And it's just never ending. And some people thrive on that. Some people love that. I didn't personally. So the rest is history as to why I moved to estimating, because I find estimating to be more cooperative. I'm helping a sub make sure they don't miss anything. I'm trying to get everybody to be clear on the scope so they can give me the most competitive number. It's so much friendlier, and I'm sure there's project managers out there that can get through jobs in a friendly, cooperative way. And that's fantastic. But at the time, the way I was working, the environment I was in just was not cooperative, and it irritated me. It got to me.
Yeah. But I think it's finding what works for you is important too. Like, all right, that's not working for you. Do something about it.
Yep. And the other thing I wanted to say, the difference between operations and estimating was I really enjoyed being a project engineer because it was so much about what's on the drawings. The information is there. You have to find it. And if you can't find it, you can write an RFI, and the submittals, making sure everything is, getting put in place correctly. A lot of those skills make a lot of sense in the estimating side too. So my enjoyment of project engineering is also why I enjoy estimating, but the additional responsibility and adversarial nature of project management kind of pushed me away from that track. So it was great that I was able to switch and that my employer facilitated that.
Yeah, because I've learned a little bit about the construction tracks, understanding like the project engineer, project manager is one track, and then that the superintendent track more comes from the trades on that side.
Around here, it's mostly union carpenters who are superintendents. But the day-to-day, a delivery showed up, where are you going to put it? I mean, that's what the superintendent's there to handle. This sub, electrician, you're over in these rooms today. Framer, you get out ahead over here. Just that basic day-to-day coordination is kind of within the realm mostly of the superintendent, but the PE supports that, make sure the RFI and the submittals are out ahead. So by the time you're building the thing, you're not asking questions. If you're writing an RFI, when the sub arrives to do that work, you are already, you already made the mistake. You're already behind.
Yeah.
So
now where would you find like the estimator's side, like you and your counterparts? Where are you guys coming from? What type of skills or tracks lead into estimating?
I have my civil engineering degree from Pitt. I feel like a lot of other people get an engineering degree, get into the contracting world, and then get shuffled between PE, estimator, APM, and then there is some cross-pollination there, but some people just have business degrees. Quite candidly, if you're good enough at Excel and, you have to learn how to read drawings. Everybody has to learn how to read drawings to be in this industry. If you learn how to read documents on the job and are good at Excel, you could probably be an estimator out of high school. Like, if you're smart. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, I learned all this stuff in civil engineering school and just don't really use that much of it. But again, it's good to have the background, because you're talking to structural engineers that do use what you learn. Geotechnical reports. You do have to know what carbonaceous and soft soil and silty loam. You have to know what that stuff is to truly understand it. But at the same time, whenever you're estimating a job, you look for, is there rock or is there carbonaceous? Does the report say over X? You could really simplify it down by the time it hits my desk.
Yeah. Is there like simple things you look like when you get a drawing set and documents? Where do you start?
I start by doing two things. If I receive a bunch of individual sheets, I make a combined set. If I receive a combined set, I split them up into individual sheets. I bookmark everything with the sheet number and the sheet title, just to get myself organized and my head wrapped around. Because then you can, you're looking at the drawing index and then looking at all your sheets, and it's like, wait a second, there's sheets that are on the cover page that aren't in my set. Okay, now I have to ask that question. Beyond that, I kind of start with site work, and then I start at the highest division and then work my way down, I think, because starting with demo and concrete and masonry and steel, 2, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. I like to get the biggest thing out of the way first. So like site work is sometimes a huge hassle, and understanding that first might take some time. And then electrical is, making sure you understand the service entrance, the switch gear. And then by the time you get to, division 10 and 9 and 8, it's like, this is easy. There's 10 doors. There's a little vestibule storefront. Like, that's easy compared to site work. That's easier compared to the MEPs. But I mean, the higher level view of like the estimating process is whenever I get a job, I get my arms around what it is. You got to get the invite to bid out to the subs as soon as possible, because no general contractor is going to survive without subcontractor input. It's just not how the world works. Getting that in front of them so they can start thinking and start deciding, are we bidding, are we not bidding? After that, some combination, depending on how I'm feeling that day, some combination of doing takeoff, either for our own self-perform work or, for budgetary purposes. I'll take off, I'll count up light fixtures, I'll count up plumbing fixtures, take off the flooring, take off the glass. I mean, there's no reason why I can't do that. It's just I'm not going to self-perform it. I'm going to get a sub number for it. Then writing scope sheets. Every GC writes scope sheets. Some GCs don't send those out to the subs. Us at Rycon, we send them out. Just to make sure everybody's bidding the same thing and everybody's on the same page. Once you get all your bids in, or if you're not getting enough bids, you got to make some calls. There's no substitute for getting on the phone. And, once the sub bids start coming in, making sure you're calling your low guy, calling your high guy, making sure that they didn't include too much or they didn't miss anything, squaring everybody up. And then, the day before or on bid day, you're putting it all together, buttoning it up, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, and sending it off. Yeah.
Do you make everybody's deadline like way ahead of bid day, or how are you setting the deadlines? Like, do they know when your bids are due?
I make the subs due 24 hours before it's due from me. And invariably, I'm still calling people, hours before the bid is due. Sometimes it depends on the project. If it's a higher profile, public bid, all these subs are waiting for their vendors to send their quotes. So there's a layer even beyond the sub where it's the vendors hang on to the last second. So my subs hang on to the last second. So I'm getting a bid 10 minutes before it's due, and it might be the smoking low number. And sometimes you have to just roll the dice on it. Sometimes you can squeeze in a call and make sure they're all good. But again, for the trades that are able to, I mean, getting everything a day in advance, you can at least get things close enough. Your toilet accessories are done. Your door vendors are good. Whatever numbers you can get in advance. Your own self-perform should be done in advance. So all that craziness, all that hectic bid room activity in the couple hours leading up is focused only on those time-sensitive things.
Yeah. I figured that would just be the most hectic part I would find is the actual bid day. I had to collect bids once, and I was fresh out of school and everybody's checking my time clock, and then they go hide behind plants and stuff for their numbers. I'm like, this is just fun to watch. But I tell my engineers 3 days ahead of when it's due, knowing that they're going to mess up and they're going to have to redo things. So it's I learned from that to save my time.
Unfortunately, subcontractors are smart. They're privy to what we do. So a lot of the times I'll make it due the day before. I won't get bids from the people I need bids from, and then I'm calling the day of, and they're aware, they know. So
yeah,
you form that habit, and they can just kind of circumvent it. And now I have to make it 2 days. Now I have to make it 2 days before the bid's due.
Yeah. Do you find the process any different if you're a CM on a job versus that standard design build?
Yeah, I mean, I'm most accustomed to the hard bid world where it's the mentality is to get your number as low as possible. So, maybe you're excluding things, you're clarifying things, you're setting allowances for things. And, if it's not on the drawings, you don't own it. And you're approaching it from that get low mentality. For the CM or the GMP side of things, you're kind of doing the opposite. You're not trying to inflate your costs necessarily, but to best serve the client, they don't want to hear that you didn't include something. Mm-hmm. They want to just handle it, So a lot of the time you're assuming more scope to make sure things are covered. So whenever something is, some scope is unclear or something isn't on the drawings, you can be proactive and tell the client, don't worry, I do this all the time. I'm a professional. I took care of it for you. It's already in the number. So that to me is kind of like the biggest mentality shift is you're only going to get a call back on a hard bid if you're low or if you're in the mix. With a GMP, it's more about creating a comprehensive package that the client can rely on you to just cover any issues with.
Yeah. And I've definitely used that GMP knowledge to work with my superintendent and my project engineers. Like, hey, this was unforeseen, but we cut out this material over here. We didn't have to do this. I know we've got money in there. Mm-hmm. Can we get this taken care of? So then it's us working together rather than having to go to the client all the time if it's within that same means.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
Can you tell when you get a set of documents if this is going to be a good set or a bad set right away?
Yeah, everybody in the industry likes to complain about drawing quality and, back in my day it was so much. And I get it, but we're all smart enough to still be successful and deliver projects on time and on budget with what we receive. I mean, it's not like construction has stopped because the quality of drawings isn't where everybody wants it to be. The things that I personally look for is making sure things are coordinated between civil and structural and architectural, making sure the MEPs are coordinated. If there's an RTU or a trash compactor or something that doesn't have a circuit, I mean, those are the sort of big ticket. I look for the big ticket items that, if it's not clear what I'm bidding on, it's going to move the needle a lot. It's going to change the number. That's usually what I look for. Responsibility matrices, if there's any owner furnished, contractor installed, or owner furnished, owner installed materials. I mean, I wish every job had a responsibility matrix, because then it's in black and white. Mm-hmm. I'm not guessing or excluding or setting allowances. It's in black and white. You're giving it to me, I'm installing it, and end of story. And the one other thing on the documents that I wish I could prove this. I wish I had enough data to prove this, but a good set of documents gets me a good set of bids and gets the client a good competitive number. Whenever the drawings are unclear or there's missing specs or the scope is not well defined, not only do I start seeing risk and start hedging that risk, so do all my subcontractors. And then the variance, the spread on the sub bids I receive could be much greater than if they're all, right in line, right and competitive, because they're all bidding the same thing and they know what they're bidding. So those are the things that I really look for in a set of documents, is just making sure everybody knows what they're bidding and what's on the documents will actually work once you build it. I've been up against a negotiated project where we're renovating some bathrooms, and the control estimate, the GMP estimate that I put together on these documents is just there's just so little information. I'm making so many assumptions, and all of my subs are guessing at what they're actually doing. And down the road, once we get into construction, there's not enough space for a toilet. Like, it's a code violation. There's not enough like distance from the side or from the front, and those sorts of things. I'm pleased to say we got through that project well and everything worked out, but it's stuff like that can really hurt a company or really hurt a client if you don't approach it with a problem solving mentality.
Yeah. And you never know what you're going to hit too. I know I've had that toilet issue on projects before, and it's just like, based on as-built drawings I got, or I couldn't get access into a space to confirm it till we got a contractor on board to demo, and then you got to problem solve. But the estimating side, I know I've had a number of young professionals over the years. When we get bids back or we're opening with the client to review bids, they're like, what do you even look for? And I'm like, well, the first thing I look at is, let's look at the big number between everybody. Mm-hmm. And if everybody's pretty close, then I'm, at least first step, really happy, because that means I conveyed scope and my documents were at least clear in some manner. Even if I missed something, at least hopefully I missed it on everybody. But when it's really wide ranging, then it's like, oh my gosh, what's missing? And what did I do wrong in the documents to understand kind of where the holes are between the bids to try to make it understandable.
Yeah, and it's tough for us on our side too. If we lose a job because we included something that another GC didn't, that's a bummer for us too. It's just, everything can work out. The low bidder can be correct, and everybody can walk away happy. But it's in these situations where the scope isn't clear and there's miscommunication on. The analogy I like to use is, we're just building a very complicated sandwich. Making sure the client knows what they want on their sandwich. They don't want mayo, they want extra onions, or pickle on the side, whatever. Making sure that the client to the architect, and then the architect to the documents, and then the documents to the bidders. Keeping that as clean and clear as possible is super important. Yeah.
And then where does your effort start and stop? How does the pull in, we kind of talked about a little bit with CM versus the hard bid, but where do you guys transition if you get a project? Do you stay on board to get people up to speed on the project?
Yeah, I think this is pretty typical of most general contractors, at least ones that I've worked for, is, I send out estimates all the time. Maybe 1 in 10 I'll actually win. Whenever you actually win a job, then you get yourself prepared to transfer everything you know about the job to a project manager. Or some general contractors have a procurement department, and they're in charge of buying out all the subcontracts. But it basically means, what did the client see? Show them that first, whatever clarifications and exclusions I wrote. And then, how did I get to the bid? All the sub numbers, all the self-perform numbers, the general conditions, the permit, the profit, the everything. They get that sheet that tallies everything up. And then basically all of the backup, all the sub bids I received, all the yeses and nos of all the scope items I wrote in my scope sheets. It sometimes ends up being 60 to 100 packet or binder that I hand off to the project manager. We do a page turn. I tell them like, hey, they never answered this. I set an allowance. Be aware that we have to resolve this, as soon as you feasibly can with the client to make sure they're getting what they want. But yeah, that's basically the handoff process. And the only thing I can recommend on the estimating side is just saving every bid you receive electronically. Just save it in a folder, make sure it's organized by division, by contractor. Again, a lot of the times in the chaos of bid day, you might be adjusting numbers here and there, pumping them up or cutting them. Make sure you have a clean place to play that game, because a week later when you get notified that you won the job, you're going to look back and why did I subtract $10,000 from this number? Where did that come from? If you don't make a note of it or have it in an organized fashion, it just becomes, you just make your life a lot more difficult.
Yeah. Moving way too fast in the last minute.
Yep.
Now, do the subs know if their number's in the bid on bid day, or is that more told to them if you guys win the project?
That is one of those informational asymmetries that, is where a lot of general contractors provide their value. I mean, the subcontractors are out to every GC, and, they just want to be the low out of their competitors. So if we don't get a job, I will share feedback with subs. I'll be like, you were third out of 5 bids. You were my highest bid. I don't mind sharing that information. Just like I would want a client to share that information with me. I want to know where my number landed compared to my competition. But if we have the notion that we are low or that we are receiving the job, sharing that information becomes a little bit more precarious, because that's an asset to the project manager or the procurement department. If they can say, oh man, all of these HVAC bids, they're right on top of each other. Can you help me out? You can't do that if I'm like, oh yeah, you're the low guy, I carried you on bid day. Mm-hmm. Then they're not going to cut their number to get any buyout savings. So, I mean, I personally try not to mess with buyout savings. It's just, you gave me your best number on bid day.
Yeah,
you did it. You won the game. Here you go. Just get to work. We have a job to finish. We're already behind. But again, that's just something that's in the industry. Everybody does it. Everybody's aware of it. And some subcontractors have told me, yeah, like I just put in extra money just so you can beat me down later. I mean, they're all aware of it.
Yeah.
They're not dumb. So it's sort of like a car dealership where it's like, oh, I have to pretend that I don't want to buy the car and walk out just so you can, pretend to give me a better deal. I'd rather just walk in and you tell me what's the price.
Welcome back. And this time I want to take an engineering approach. We work closely with our engineers all throughout the design phase and all throughout construction and troubleshooting any existing conditions or unforeseen conditions that we see. And it was hard to pick out just one engineering discipline for this summary. And so I went the mechanical route. This is episode number 33 with Nancy Kohout. She is a mechanical engineer at Smith Group, and we talk about her experiences as being a mechanical engineer at just an engineering firm, and she was more of a consultant to architects and designers with contracts, to then having everything in-house, architects and engineers, and what that means and the different types of collaboration, communication that is done throughout that process. So hopefully you guys enjoy these lessons on communication from Nancy. And again, she is number 33 if you want to check out her full episode. Do you have any advice for new leaders, whether they're engineering or architectural, for learning to lead teams and managing their time differently, delegation, managing up and down a lot of the times at that point?
So much to say on all of this.
So much, but those are kind of the big ones.
I'll try to be concise. Okay, so I would say as a leader, it's really important to understand your own style. Everyone's different. You're not going to be like, you might have someone that you loved how they led you, but like you're your own person. So understand what your style is. I think my style is very open, encouraging, very vulnerable. I'm very comfortable sharing like the things I'm not good at or what I'm still trying to improve. Just being a real person. Everybody, like leaders are real people too. So we're all a work in progress. And I think that also helps foster a safe environment for people to be able to raise their hand and be like, I don't really understand this. I need some help here. If you act perfect and you act like there's no flaws that you have as a leader, you're not going to make it a safe place for other people to be able to reveal and improve upon what their own struggles are. So I think that's really important to me, like being vulnerable, being real, creating a safe culture. Um, the day comes as you rise to leadership where you cannot do everything and you cannot be perfect, and you have to prioritize what requires your time and what you can give away. And the things that you give away, you have to leave time to tweak them and have them fine tuned to be perfect. And you should basically be giving away anything that doesn't require you. And then helping finish it after you delegate it, right? Making sure it's where it needs to be. Allowing your team to reach and sort of push themselves outside their comfort zone, because that's what grows people. Not being afraid to step back in and help fix the stuff that didn't stick to the wall, but rather slid down and needs your help. Being a team player, like when something goes wrong on a project, it's a project team. And as a leader, if you're responsible for that thing, it's your problem. You jump in, you help your team, you work together. Everyone makes mistakes. It's normal. Not being overly critical, helping learn from what didn't go well, I think is important. There's a day, and this is not for everybody, but anyone who goes to a leadership role, there's a moment when you kind of make a leap from individual contributor, I do this thing, I control all these things, to leader, where you're deciding who can do what and how you can get the job done and what needs your help. And that's a leap to be made in anyone's career. And it's really normal to struggle with that, to struggle to let go, to struggle with perfectionism, and it's really important to have self-awareness of like sort of what your flaws might be in that area. Like, are you micromanaging? Are you being too controlling? Are you giving people a chance to flourish? Are you talking too much and not listening enough? Like that's an awareness thing I have of myself, is really trying to draw out like the introverts in the room and get their point of view, because they're usually the smartest. They have the best things to say. They're just inside percolating. So like those
Yeah.
kinds of things.
You just got to pull the ideas out.
Yeah. And as far as managing up, I think I have a whole presentation on managing up, but it's very much about having empathy for who you're working with. And it's not that too different than from managing down. It's understanding the qualities of the person that you're working with, understanding what drives them, being tolerant for what their flaws are, helping be a team with them, not being afraid to pick up the phone when things are going bad. That email tone is escalating. As a doer, you think, oh, my manager does nothing. Well, they do a lot of things. They're figuring out what everyone should do, which is a whole job in itself, right? So having empathy for what's on their plate, just like you want them to have empathy for what's on your plate. So much comes down to communication, collaboration, the ability to build a bridge if things aren't going well, the ability to be accountable for your own flaws, the ability to kind of right the ship when things aren't going well. And, the truth is, the answer is always something in the middle, right? There's two sides to the story. The answer is always something in the middle. So to lower your pride and just try to like do something for the good of the team to make things better, like those are just things that make a good leader, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not always black and white. So many things are
Never
shades
black and
of gray.
And I'm an engineer. It's never black and white.
But I know I struggled the first time I took over a leadership role in a project. I struggled a lot with delegation.
Normal. Very
I didn't
normal.
understand delegation. I thought it was like an all or nothing thing. And I end up hurting my team because I didn't delegate to them early enough to have that time to iterate, think through, be able to fix, mend, and I hindered the whole team. And
Well, and
so,
there's like with delegation, there's like a whole thing, which is this. You have to figure out what you're delegating in the beginning. The things that you're doing can come later. The things
mhm,
that someone needs from you and the things that you need from someone have to go first.
yep.
Because no one loves that manager that sits on something for 7 days and then tells you the day before it's due that they need your help, right? And so it's this whole parallel path thing where you're starting to understand, oh, I need to communicate the things I need from other people or the things that they need from me
Yep.
first. And that's like a process. You learn that. Like you
Yeah.
start your life as a linear individual contributor. First I do this, then I do this. In management, you have to understand, okay, who needs something from me? Who does someone need? Who do I need something from? I got to ask for that first.
Yeah.
And then I'll get to the things that only I can do. And what are the things that only you can do? Messy things, things that require a whole bunch of history, things that need like 10 different inputs,
Yeah.
hard to give away things.
Yeah, I'm always teaching my young architects on projects or the people I coach. It's, hey, always start with what do you need to do first that affects others so they can get something done? Or if you don't even know it, like I always like teaching if you are redesigning a corner of a building, go tell your engineering team, I'm redesigning this whole
Yes.
area. Just stay
FYI.
clear.
Yeah.
Because if you don't tell them, that's the first spot that's going to get
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of things.
Again,
But
communication.
exactly. Were there any, I know since you were kind of on the consulting side and now in-house, are there any particular communication strategies that worked in one sense or another?
Well, I think uh, I feel generationally our forms of communication have changed, and not that there's one right way or one wrong way, but I think it's really important to understand the preferred communication style of who you're communicating with. So, I have daughters who are 21 and 23, and like I would never just pick up the cell phone and call them. I know to text them first and be like, "Can I call you?" Because
Mhm.
that is what's polite culturally for their generation. But I am 51 years old. Like if I was going to, call my husband who's about to turn 60, like I would just pick up the phone. We talk real time. That's the world
Yeah.
that we're from, right? And so just sort of adjusting to the communication styles of who you're dealing with, I think is important. That's showing adaptability and respect for who you're interacting with. I think as engineers, we typically have more projects. We spend
Mhm.
less time on a project and we have more projects simultaneously. So, as an architect, you were working to be respectful of your engineers rather than sending them like PDF attachments of beautiful colored schedules. Send them a calendar invite that shows up on their calendar that tells them what they need to know in the thing, right? So it's like starting to understand how best to communicate to your team for success. Um, Make it easy. That's a skill I learned at my consulting firm. Like I would manage the team of engineers and I would and they would be like, no one told me. And then I would be like, well, let's see. Let's look on your calendar. Oh, geez. Look, here it is right here. You got an invite. And in this invite, it told you exactly what to do. Over communicate. Give
Mhm.
someone no reason to explain why they didn't know what they needed to do. And if the what you're doing isn't working, then adjust,
Yeah.
right? Like don't be afraid to adjust. Like don't hunker down and be like, I sent you a PDF 7 weeks ago and in page 72 it said this. Like obviously if they didn't hear it, you need to adjust how you're sending your message.
Yeah. I always just ask half the time. It's, hey, how do you prefer
Mm-hmm.
information? Are you in construction right now and you're getting Procore emails all day long that you're not going to see an email or it can get
Right.
buried? Then, okay, is Teams better? Should I
Yep.
pick up the phone and call you? Can I just call you and leave you a message? Is that fine? And just learning people. I think it all
Yep.
goes back to knowing everybody.
and not being afraid to get input. Like as a leader, getting input. Like I'm always getting input. And it was funny. I was reading a whole thing about introverts versus extroverts. And it's like extroverts are always like, how do you feel? It's so annoying to introverts. Like, why don't you tell me how I feel all the time? Right. And
I'm
like,
fine.
I'm like, that's me. I'm always like, how is everybody feeling?
Welcome back. And one final clip I want to put together for you. And we're going all the way back to episode number 5 with Bridges and Kate Schuster. They are product reps and they represent a variety of different products. And they both own their own businesses. So we talked a little bit about ownership and what it means to own a company and entrepreneurs and how they get different products to what they're talking to you about. But we talk about how architects can really leverage reps to help them in the detailing process, material selection, to make sure what we're putting in our projects has the quality the owner is looking for, the durability that's needed based on the project type, and making sure what you draw and specify actually has equal products listed in it. So this one, I wanted to take a product rep perspective. So then you can learn some of the lessons from being on their side, since they do work with design teams, but they are working with contractors as well. So they do have arms on both sides, and how you can leverage your communication and relationships with product reps to help you on your next project. So hopefully you enjoy this clip, number 5 from Bridges and Kate Schuster.
That's our revenue that we then run our operations from.
Yeah, we disperse to our employees.
Yeah, so we're paying our employees, we're doing our general administrative expenses and rent and marketing expenses, and because that's sometimes it's like, oh, look at that paycheck you just got. Well, that's not really a paycheck. That's a revenue.
Yeah.
No different than it's just a check to pay the bills and to pay ourselves, of course. But
yeah, and then jumping off the sales and operations side, I want to jump into how you guys coordinate across architects, contractors, and on the product side. So what are different things you are doing, and how do you wear a different hat depending on who you're talking to and working with?
that's interesting. Well, Kate, do you mind if I jump first on this?
No, yeah, go ahead. I don't even know what to say yet.
I heard you say something earlier, which is so true, is that it's definitely a different dynamic selling to the contractor versus consulting with the architect. Okay.
Yep.
And because you got two different mindsets, and you really have to learn that balance of it's totally a different process. And you have to, again, you're wearing a consultant hat with the architect more. You're being a resource, even though you're a resource to your customers too, and you're consulting on that side. But the dynamic is definitely more consulting on the architect and design side, and the customer side is more transactional. And again, you're looking for, from a customer side, they're looking for lead time, price, urgency, so many other different things that are more transactional. And on the architect side, you're dealing with, again, consulting, you're dealing with drawings and specs and, how you help to get that right. And they have two different wishes, I think, too. And I always say, I like what Kate says, you're a chameleon, because you really do change. And, it's like, you're singing one song with the architects and you have to sing the opposite song with the contractors. And there's also a tension between architects and contractors. Sometimes you have to deal with, and it's real. It's real, and you can't. I've had years where I'm just gonna I'm gonna be on the contractor side. And then you're like, well, no, then you say I'm going to be on the architect side. So that you got to find that middle ground of balance of helping both out. And it works, by the way. You can do it.
And you never know the relationship you're coming into either. I've had projects really sour with that relationship, and I've had projects that are fantastic, and I love working with that team of contractors. So I know you can kind of get stuck in the middle if you don't know what the relationship is. It's like, okay, are we good here? Are we not good here? How's it going?
Yeah, I like to think of it kind of as like a circle or a cycle, or like we go in and we talk to the spec writers, the architects, and we, get our products on the project, and then the drawings come out to bid, and then we're bidding it to the contractor in the office, and then, we're going back to the contractor and trying to win it, and then we win the project, and then we do submittals, and then they go back to the architect, and so then we're seeing the architect's name again, and seeing what they're changing and the colors that they're choosing and all that stuff. And you want to be careful, like they're when it gets to that stage, you can't really like go to the architect directly. You're going through the contractor to the architect, so it's like a weird dancing game you have to kind of play when you're into a project at that point. And I remember when I was like younger, I would, go in the field to meet a contractor, and I learned pretty quickly, like, sometimes I would wear, like, of course, I was 23 years old, so I would wear like stiletto heels and like these dress pants, and I would go into these hospitals, and they'd be like, well, we need, help measuring. And, I looked like an idiot because of what I was wearing. And so then I started wearing, more like work boots and jeans and stuff. And then the architects, the designer side, like I would, dress up really nice and, you know, be like much more aesthetically pleasing when I would go into their office. It's even like a different look that you go with
Yeah, that's fair.
sometimes. And
Right.
yeah, so it's just funny, but everyone in the industry understands how it works and knows the dynamics. So
Yeah, I've definitely had the dress mishap because I wore a
yeah,
dress to the office because I wasn't supposed to go on site, and then all of a
yeah,
sudden you get a call to go on site, and I'm like, okay, next time, like any time I'm in CA and it's a local project, if I am going into the office with a dress, I typically pack like a backup, just jeans and like a nicer t-shirt, or I'll leave it if I've got a locker in the office just to like,
yep.
that I can still wear and have diversity in what I'm wearing. But
I did the
definitely
same thing.
had
I
the
would
instance.
like Timberland boots in my car. It was funny,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I don't think guys have to, deal with this as much. But I basically stopped wearing dresses altogether. After like 5 years, I was like, what, I'm just gonna, play it kind of casual. And now people I think are more casual than they were 15 years ago. But
Well,
yeah, funny.
just to say from a guy's perspective, this goes back to what about working both sides of this dynamic is that like I've done lunch seminars where I'm wearing a suit or maybe and I'll
Oh
have
yeah,
dress, and then I'll be like, oh my goodness, I forgot. I scheduled a job site meeting at 2 o'clock. And by the way, I've got to walk this job. And by the way, it's March and it's been raining for a week.
Yeah.
So I do not have boots with me. And
no
I've learned
slut.
boots in my car. But so now you've changed your hat from this consulting lunch seminar hat to this job site hat. And I had to sacrifice my dress shoes that day. But
Especially with exterior, then you're dealing with more like I had a site that pretty much was all clay. And so like soon as that dries on your boot, it's done. Whereas as soon as it's an interior project, I'm like, oh, okay, I can wear my interior work boots and it's different. And so yeah, it definitely changes.
well, because of this dynamic too, I think what I like about the role is, and the job is, it is you talk about variety. It's something new every day.
Yeah,
And,
it's awesome.
yeah. Yeah. So that's a big thing. You get a lot of variety doing this.
Yeah. And I know you touched on lunch and learns a little bit, and that's a lot of the times how the young professionals meet the local reps is through lunch and learns. But
Sure.
I more talk about reps as being consultants, like you've said. How else can you help architects along the way? If we've got questions, can we just go directly to you? Like, you don't need to go to a senior architect. You could go dive right in and figure that out. How does that work? What different things do you offer that can help the architects and designers?
What do you think, Kate?
I think so. People, will email me pretty often and like, need detail on this. So, I spend a lot of time sending details or like design inspiration. More of my stuff is designers that ask me and not so much architects. I think Brad's side is more of like an architectural
Right.
product. So mine's more interior. But, we send details and design inspiration, and then, whenever we have new products to show, that's a way to kind of introduce that to people. So it's important that they know if, like construction specialties, like 5 years ago, they pretty much got rid of all their colors. They discontinued 37 colors. And that's something that, the architects and designers need to know. And so, and that's to get into an architectural firm and be like, hey, listen, I need to update your library. And to have the latest colors. And so, I would, tell them that. And if they didn't have time or something, at least I touched base with them. They remembered who I was. I got, because email is hard. But even if I could like mail them something or just remind them, of the product and what they need to get updated on, that was helpful. And then I know Brad and I, which Katelyn, you saw, we started like a rep group. And so we would come in, this is after COVID, because a lot of things changed after that. We would have come into an office and help architects, know the latest products and stuff, because a lot of people are working remotely now. And so we would come in as like a group, and so that it was just like 1 hour when everyone was there. You could kind of go to the tables that you wanted to do. The architects could go to the products they wanted to see, the designers could go to the products that they wanted to see at a certain table, and then everyone got food or whatever. And so it was like mutually beneficial for everybody. And they would get the latest product updates, and we'd be able to help with any questions that they had there too. So,
yeah, and that's not a formal lunch and learn style. That's more of if you go to a conference or a networking event, and then you can kind of just pick and choose.
I just wanted to add on to what Kate said, because everything, that's really good. And she does a lot of what we do. I think, back to your question too, I think definitely, we want to, Kate, and I'm sure we want to be that resource. I think that's a key word, is being a resource. And so, reach out direct to product reps. And a good product rep is going to be, a big word for us is responsive. Katelyn, I think you said it to others said of us, they're shocked at how many people on the product rep side don't reply right away, or, not returning a phone call or aren't returning an email. So, just being responsive is a huge thing. And then being helpful, right? And being that consultant. We like to, if we're reached out to in that situation, typically someone's in an SD, late SD or a DD, or maybe in CDs.
The frantic CDs, or we need you tomorrow to be like, oh crap, I didn't do that yet.
Yeah. And then, so from there, it's like, hey, can we set up a quick, is it a Teams or a Zoom call to help you get this right? Or Kate's the same way. Look, we jump in our car, in a drop of a hat to help. We call it like a design consulting meeting. Like, hey, let's roll up our sleeves and let's get this right. Let's look at the details. I'm just not going to, typically, we're just not sending blind. Someone asks for a detail, we're going to ask, well, where's it going?
All right, and welcome back. I hope you guys enjoyed this themed episode on learning some lessons from those that aren't necessarily a traditional architect or outside of architecture in general. And these were just a few episodes. It was really hard to pick a couple just for this theme. So there are so many other professionals that I've interviewed that you can take a look at their full episode. But again, the owner side with Stephen Albert was episode number 14. The estimator side with Jesse Robinson Evans was episode number 37. Picking one engineer, and so we picked Nancy Kohout, episode number 33 on the mechanical engineering side. And finally, episode number 5, Brad Bridges and Kate Schuster on the product rep side. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and check out the full episodes of all these professionals if you want to learn more about their career story and other advice for you as a professional in the AEC industry. I hope you enjoyed our discussion today. Learn some advice to take with you and see how our industry is all tied together to create the world around us. Check out the description below for any links or resources we discussed. If you liked the episode, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support finding that career path that best works for them. If you know someone that has inspired your own career that you'd like me to interview, let me know in the comments below, or you can reach out to me via my website or LinkedIn. I'd be happy to share their story or your own. Thank you again, and I cannot wait for the next career story I get to share with you next week.